Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Daryl Show Your Work. And in this episode, I'm going to be discussing and demonstrating how the Linux's Sudo tool can actually be used as an attack vector. All right, so to give a brief overview of what Sudo is, which I would suspect most folks watching this would know, but to still give a brief overview of it, the tool it's a tool that gives us the ability to run commands with root privileges without actually using the root account. When not carefully set up, sudo can also allow users to do far more than what was intended. All right, so I'm going to display some of that throughout this video. And so the first command that we're going to be working with here to show how much damage you can do with sudo if not properly configured is base 64. What base 64 is, it's an encoding scheme that converts a binary data into a text stream using the set of 64 printable ASCII characters. So think capital A through Z, lowercase a through Z, special characters, and 0 through 9. All right, so those are ASCII characters, and what the encoding does, it mixes and matches those as a means of obfuscating data, which is a pretty bad way of doing so. Encryption is much stronger than base 64 encoding, which can be easily broken. All right, so to get started and showing what this actually looks like. So I'm going to first write a command, and this command is going to allow us to read a shadow password file, and then it's going to encode it, and then it will immediately decode the file. All right, so of course the first thing I have to do is sudo. Let me say base 64, since that is the encoding that we're working with. And then we're going to be aiming at the ASCII shadow file, which is where all user password hashes are located on the Linux system. I'm going to say pipe, and again, base 64. And then I'm going to say dash dash, and I'm going to tell it to decode it. All right. So let's see what happens when I do that using sudo. All right. It's asking me for my password here, so all right, so as we can see that we can clearly see the ASCII shadow file, and with the accounts that actually have passwords here, we can see the password hashes. So this right here, for example, is an example of a password file, or a password hash rather. All right. And so what we would do if we were an attacker, we would have then been able to decode this base 64 encoding, find these password files, dump them, and then been able to use like utilities such as Hashcat or John the Ripper to then try to crack these hashes. All right, so that's the example of what the problem in using sudo with base 64 is. Um, and just I guess to further dig into this, if a user can use sudo base 64, they can read any file on the server with the command such as this. So this is just an example of kind of like the worst case scenario, but anything that would have had like base 64 encoding, and if we were to use insecure misconfigured sudo um, um, command with that, then we'll be able to read or decode anything that was being obfuscated using that method. All right, so the next command that we're going to combine this insecure sudo tool with is the file command. And what the file command is exactly like it sounds. It's a command that can output the type of file. So I'm going to show what that looks like for those that just may not know. I'm going to just write a simple file command here, and I'm going to say tilde, and then desktop. Let's see, I'm gonna then aim it at the Git folder, and then let me say aim at this file byteshred.c. All right. All right, so basically, all this command did was it just showed us, it just helped to identify that this file was source code. All right, so again, it tells us that it's an ASCII text and that it's a source code. So it just tells us what type of file this file type is. But let's say we were to use it against the same type of file, something more sensitive, like with the file we just worked with the shadow password file. All right, so I'm going to show you what happens when we do that and explain to you what we're seeing, because it may not be as obvious um, once I execute it. So I'm going to say sudo file dash f, and I'm going to specify the Etsy shadow file. All right, syntax looks good. Okay, so what happens kind of very similar to what happened with the base 64. So if we look here, we're able to see these password hashes. We're able to view those. And again, if I'm an attacker, I could get a hold of these password hashes, and I could dump these and begin to try to crack them using some other utility. So when given a pseudo file can also when given sudo, excuse me, a file can also be used to read restricted information. While file usually takes the files to identify from the command line, it can also take them from a file where each line of the file will be interpreted as a file to be read. If one of these files cannot be read, an error message is outputted. These error messages will allow one to read a file or the contents of that file. So in this example, that would be these password hashes. So it read each of these, as you see where it says no file or directory, no file or directory. it it's reading each of these as a file, and it's just outputting what that file may contain, because we ran it with sudo. We ran it with those root privileges. So now we have the output, which again, if I'm an attacker, is good, because then I can take what's in the shadow password file, dump it, and then begin to then to begin to try to crack it, especially this admin password here. That's not good. All right, so the last utility that I want to work along with sudo, excuse me, is the less command. So those that may know, it may be confused when I say that, because the less command is usually it just allows users to break page filling content down into smaller pages. So when you, like, let's say when you go into a large document, sometimes you may have seen like something that says like more, where you can then tap your arrow key and it'll show you more, or you can say less, tap up on your arrow key and it can show you less. But something a lesser known feature that people know is that actually you can run commands with the less tool. So I'm going to attempt to run a command with a less tool using sudo, and I'm going to run against the same well, at this time, you know what, let's go for usernames. Let's try to enumerate usernames with this. So instead of adding and aiming at the shadow password file, I'm just going to aim at the passwd file, which houses the usernames. So I'm going to say sudo less etc, and this time we're just going to go for usernames. but this will also help as far as enumeration, because if I'm an attacker, if I could get both the passwords and the usernames, well, now I don't have to worry about trying to do any type of brute forcing to try to guess what usernames or passwords are on here. I could just enumerate it directly from here, just using these commands. All right, so I'm gonna hit enter. All right, now it looks like now I'm in less, right? So let's try to do this. So I'm gonna say bang, and let's say I wanted to run /bin/sh, and what some people may know is this is what you will write when you want to start a shell. All right, so when I do that, let's see what happens. Look, if you notice right here, okay, we're not here, we're here where this number sign is, this hashtag sign is. So that is indicative of us being in the root account. So what we could do to confirm that, I'm gonna type in ID, and see, we're root. Groups, group ID, user ID, all of it root. All right. So so now that we've seen kind of the damage that we can do with a pseudo utility or tool that is not properly configured, what things can we do to tighten that up? And all right, so what we could do is we can modify the sudo doers configuration file. So in order to do that, I'm gonna just, while we're en route, I'm gonna just say vid, uh, vid sudo, and that's going to take us into the sudo doers configuration file. All right. So as you can see, we're in there, and the location of that file's in etc sudo in the file name of sudo doers .temp. So if we take a look at this file, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. All right. So notice how the admin account has the ability to run any command as any user using sudo. All right. So that is a problem. Okay, then another thing we want to take a look at here is this is what basically has enabled us throughout this video, is this rule right here, this no password rule. So you can see that as admin, that no passwords required to run less, no passwords is required to run base 64, and no password is allowed to run a file. Which, if I remember correctly, we were actually asked for a password. We're running base 64, so that portion of this rule may have failed. But I do not recall ever being asked for a password to run a file or run less when using those the commands that we use with sudo with the sudo tool. So one thing we can do to fix that is that we could remove this rule. All right. All right. So by doing that, this is the first step that we could take to properly harden this attack vector, which is the misconfigured sudo tool. All right. So I'm going to hit Control X, and I'm gonna save it. Y, hit enter. All right. So that's going to bring us to the end of this video. I just wanted to demonstrate and explain how a misconfigured, something as simple as a misconfigured pseudo tool can be an attack vector and can be hazardous to a system or to an enterprise. And when combined with other tools and utilities, it can basically allow attacker to have access to sensitive information such as user passwords and user accounts, And also it can cause, in this last example that I showed, it can also cause a directly cause a privilege escalation by taking us directly into root using that when combined with that less command. So please like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, show your work. Until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.